Hello everyone, welcome back to Placement Buddies. Let me welcome you all to another episode of Let's Hear from the Experienced. And today we have among us Shreyanka, who is placed in PwC. Hello Shreyanka, welcome to Placement Buddies.
Hi. Hi.
श्रेयांका हमारे ऑडियंस को अपने बारे में कुछ बताओ.
Right. So my name is Shreyanka Sharma. I'm from IIS Trishipur. I'm in my fourth year. I'm doing mechanical engineering, and I recently got placed in PwC. Like the offer letters and all will come in a while, but yeah, we got the results.
Yeah. So Shreyanka, how does it feel getting placed in PwC, being from a non-circuital branch like mechanical? So basically, what was your preparation roadmap?
Right. So PwC was sort of my dream company because, like, in my first year, I saw this senior. I was really close to get in PwC. So it was like every year I was like, that was the company I wanted to get in and no other company. So it feels great. And as for the preparation roadmap, I think there's a lot of stuff I did which sort of indirectly helped me in the preparation. I did not prepare as such. Like, I prepared a bit of PwC papers from, like, previous sample papers of PwC. I talked to people who had gotten into PwC, so I knew what was the aptitude questions like, what were the interview questions like. So I did do a bit of specific preparation in that sense. But apart from that, I was preparing for CAT, so I did a lot of aptitude. So that helped. I practiced speaking a lot, so that helped in the interview.
Right.
So yeah, that was pretty much the preparation.
So coming back, when did PwC visit your campus and what was the eligibility criteria basically?
Right. So PwC was like, I think, the first company that came, like, as for mechanical at least,
Okay.
it was the first company. I think CSIP, they had other companies who had come before. PwC came in around August. I think the placement things ended, like, we got the results on like 23rd August-ish. So I think 17th August was the aptitude test. So 17th to 23rd, around that period of August.
Right.
And the eligibility criteria was, I think you had to have 70% in UG in class 10 and 12. Like, it was all 70%. So that was a pretty okay eligibility criteria.
Right. So talking about the online test now, at first, I suppose that was the first round, right?
Yeah.
So in which platform was it taken and what was the pattern basically?
Right. So the online test was an aptitude test. It was I cannot actually remember the platform, but it wasn't a website. It was a website. It wasn't something you had to download or install. Nothing of that sort. So they just give you a link and you have to go and appear in it. The pattern was simple. I think we had 45 questions in an hour. It was all aptitude. So we had English, we had maths, and we had some logical reasoning questions. The level was definitely a bit hard. Like, it wasn't easy as we expected. So there was that. Yeah, that was about it. For the logical reasoning questions and the aptitude, like, English questions were, I guess, easy, but logical reasoning and math was definitely, like, if not at CAT level, at like medium level in comparison to CAT. So.
Okay. So once the online test was over, what was the next round?
Right. So once the online test was over, we had 3 rounds of interviews. After that, so every round is an elimination round. You make it to the 3rd round, and then they let you know if you have made it or if you haven't made it. So that's about it. We had 3 rounds, which were the first round is a technical round. The second round is a partner round where you sit down with a partner, which is like the highest position in PwC. So you sit down with someone who is a partner. And then the last round is an HR round. So, like, in some, I guess, tech companies, HR isn't really important or anything, but I think in consultancy, HR becomes important too.
Right.
So all of the rounds were, like, really important. And yeah, those were the 3 rounds.
So what happened basically in the technical round? What sort of questions were asked and like how did you prepare yourself for that?
Right. So the thing about PwC interviews in general are, like, you should know your CV through and through. Like, whatever you write in your CV, you should know it. So, for example, like, if you know Python, C, C++, and that's fine. You can write all three. But if you know just Python and you know vaguely C and C++, please don't write it. Like that's the first point of advice. So I sort of went with just like things I had done and I knew through and through. I placed them in my CV when sending the CV. So that helped. So that's the first thing. I prepared my CV. The second thing for technical round and for like all rounds, I guess you should do your tell me about yourself really well. I practiced that like 10 to 15 times. So because like you start out with tell me about yourself, they'll definitely ask you that question, and then from there they'll just pick up things and tell you to talk about it. For example, when I started telling them about myself, I guess. They asked me like they stopped me midway, and I was talking about this project I had done at my internship, and they were like, "Hey, describe that project." And then like, what did you do during quarantine? Like, what was a new skill you picked up? And they asked me like, I had a lot of positions of responsibility listed out. So they were like, what, like, pick one and talk about it. Like, what did you do? What was, your accomplishment in this role? So all of that. So they'll definitely like pick and choose things from your CV in the technical round and ask you questions on that. At least that's what I was asked. And so the name is a bit misleading. Like for technical, you expect it to be maybe from your core thing, maybe from the subject. So I would suggest don't go by the name. Like technical and partner round, they can ask you anything. So get your CV in order, like know your core topics or the internship that you've done really well. And that's about all the preparation. And do your tell me about yourself like as much as you can.
Right. So once the technical was over, you got shortlisted for the partner round. What happened basically in the partner round, and what is it all about?
Yeah, so what happened is we had a long day of interview, right? We started at 9 o'clock in the morning and we ended at 12. My interview ended at 12 at night, so it's a very long period. So my technical interview got over at 12:30 and my partner interview was at 12 o'clock at night, so like solid 12 hours later. So in the partner round, so it differs a lot. Okay, again, like I've known people who got placed in PwC with like a 5 minutes of partner round. Like they have just asked one question and that's it. But my partner round went on for a while. I think he asked me, and again, there are people who have never been asked core about like if they're mechanical or civil, they have never been asked core subjects.
Right.
But mine was completely core. Like he was like, what is a department, and tell me a favorite topic that you're studying or a favorite subject that you're studying. And then so for me that was a transmission topic. So and he was like, okay, what do you know about gears? What do you know about shafts? So it was a completely mechanical thing. So and from there we went to thermodynamics. So and that has happened with a lot of people in our time. Like in the interview day that we had, everyone got asked from their core subject that they were studying. So I would recommend brushing that up for the partner round. And then apart from that, just like what are your hobbies? What are you currently? So mine was reading. So don't like say something that you have never done, because they'll ask you about that. Where are you from? Like very easy questions. The interviews are really, really nice. Like they want to get to know you better, and they're like looking to hire you. So like they're not looking to reject you. So they do try to help you out a lot.
So basically, in consulting companies as well, students can expect questions from their core subjects, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So once the partner round was done, you proceeded towards the HR round. So what happened in that round basically?
So HR round has like most, if you're ever preparing for HR interviews, there are some set questions, right? For consultancy specifically, like why consultancy and why are you shifting from mechanical to consultancy? So those questions I think you should prepare, because you need to convince them that you are actually willing to shift from mechanical to or whatever your field is with consulting. So, but don't like for me HR round, I think a question that sort of threw me off was why PwC as like a technical consultancy. What's the difference between PwC and like an IT consultancy, right? So not very commonplace questions. So HR can ask you stuff like that. Other than that, they are just like willing to know because if you made it to HR round, they are like really looking to recruit you at that point. So they want to know if you're like willing to relocate, and like what are your sort of salary preferences, if you will, or like stuff like that. So they do want to know if you are, like how willing are you to take up if they make you that offer. So you might have to convince them that yeah, like this is the company that you wanted to get in.
Yeah. So Shriyanka, as I know that you had a lot of research about PwC before like appearing for its process. So how important it is for students to research about a company and to actually know what that particular company wants from the freshers. How important it is before an interview.
Uh, Very important, like extremely important. So I sort of obviously went to the PwC website. Like that is something you should do. Like if you're appearing for an interview, please go through the website. That's like the bare minimum. Also like the job requirements, because if you know the job requirements of your role, right, as you said, like what the company expects from the freshers, if you know that, then when you're when you're saying your answers, you can actually like say, okay, if the company requires a problem solving skill, you can actually modulate your answer to include the fact that you are good at problem solving.
Absolutely.
So that helps a lot. Apart from that, like in terms of research, what I would really recommend, it might be a bit difficult for places where like PwC is like come for the first time, so you don't have seniors who are working there or who have got placed to campus. But what I did was I talked to a lot of seniors who got placed in PwC. Like I had a senior who told me everything like about his journey, about his friend's journey. So that is something very important, because then you not only do you have an idea of what they are doing in PwC, right? Like what PwC expects, like how is the training regime when you get first placed, and after that what projects you work on, like what sort of projects you work on. So you have an idea of what work at PwC is. But more importantly, you should also, like apart from just having an idea of like what the interview process is, you should also talk to people who are working in PwC, so you know personally if you'll fit with the culture. So please do research on PwC, the computer like
Obviously. And one more thing, like how do you feel, you will be working with one of the big four consulting companies in the near future. So how does it feel to you?
It's great, and again, as I mentioned, like for me, PwC was like that was the one company which was like make or break. So for me, it's also like it's very relieving, when you get placed, because consulting firms sort of come early on. So getting placed early on in the season is sort of like it takes a lot of stress on you.
Absolutely.
Like so, appearing for this, even if you're like really not interested, may be a good idea, because the stress of placements is gone.
Right. So having said that, for a student who is not much aware about how to prepare for consulting companies, or you can say belonging from a core branch like civil, mechanical, production, chemical, etc., how that particular student can start his or her journey, in order to prepare for consulting companies like PwC, or you can say KPMG, Deloitte, etc.
Right. So I think the first step of this consulting and just any company in general, is if you can and if you know someone who is working or who has been placed, you should reach out to them. That's number one, because they'll be able to give you a better preparation roadmap than anyone else.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two is every consulting company, at least the ones who are coming to campus, will always have an aptitude round. So I would really recommend practicing aptitude. You can even look up specific papers. So for example, I looked up PwC placement papers, so I got like results which I practiced, so that helped me, because it might not be very different from in another company's aptitude papers, but still knowing that this is a paper that has come before gives you some sort of confidence. So that's number two. So for aptitude, I would like recommend going through, for maths, please go through the basic formula of quants. If you can go through like Arun Sharma, which is a book I use for CAT. It's a bit of a high level book, not really required for aptitude, but for the formula side and for the theory side, it helps. Practice logical reasoning, and practice English if you can, wherever you can. So that's the aptitude online test part taken care of. For the interviews as well as for the English part of aptitude, I would recommend talking a lot. Just like do the answer, like even if you are saying answers to a question, like you can write it down or anything, but I would recommend speaking it out aloud, because that is something a lot of people struggle with. Like in interviews, they're like I'm reading through, or they've forgotten their answer. or they go nervous. Like also doing mock interviews is very helpful. I did a lot of mock interviews as part of my internship. Yeah, so you should definitely do mock interviews specifically for people who know that they have a tendency of going blank in interviews. Like get a friend or a parent to sit down and ask you questions. Also go through questions people have been previously asked and practice answers to that. Yeah, and prepare your CV. Like whatever you've written in your CV, you should know the grading.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Shriyanka. And keeping everything in mind, like we have created videos on resume building, and then as you said, in order to know the preparation roadmap of any particular company, at first you should connect with that particular company's senior, and the best way to connect with such seniors is the LinkedIn platform. So I have created videos on LinkedIn platform as well. Then we have as you said, you have practiced previous year question papers on PwC. We do have previous year papers videos related to Deloitte or say Tredence and Hellstorm, and these videos have got a very excellent response. So I must say, like maybe Placement Buddies is creating that sort of platform for the students who are actually trying to get help for their placement preparation. So Shriyanka, before we wrap it up, do you have any particular tips for our juniors which you want to give?
Um, I would say that like interviews specifically for companies. If you have been dreaming of this company, interviews are hard and aptitude is hard. But whenever you're going into it, know that it's not the end of the world. There are better companies. There are different companies. You'll get in somewhere. You'll do great things. So like, just go in, and the interviewer. And I think one of the great tips I got is that the interviewer is looking to hire you. So it's not an elimination. They are not. You're not trying to find faults. So
Right.
think of it as a conversation. I know it might sound cliche, but think of it as a conversation. Try to answer things with a level head, and you'll surely do well. It's not a big deal.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Thanks Shriyanka. Thanks again for joining Placement Buddies and sharing your interview experience. We wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Sure. Thank you so much.